Hi, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to the students today. Would you start out by introducing yourself and maybe telling them like what job you have and maybe your journey into that job and in the HR profession as a whole?
Yes, well, hello. My name's Carrie, and I work as a VP of Human Resources now. I've been in HR for 25 years. I've done it ever since I was in college, and I started as a recruiter, actually. So I started at a staffing agency as a recruiter. I made lots of calls and got a lot of resumes and posted people for positions. But I had a real interest in HR. So I was always volunteering for other things, benefits projects, policy development, like the handbooks. And I started volunteering and helping out and learning that way. And I slowly grew my career over time.
Wow, that's very interesting. So you actually volunteered, took the initiative to try and broaden your skill set. That's really cool. So we're going to be talking about HRIS systems, which are often very scary for students because it overlaps IT a little bit. So can you kind of describe what an HRIS system may look like?
Yes, I see HRIS as a gift. It helps keep us organized. And I can describe it in two ways at my company. So just for example, we post our jobs on Indeed, indeed.com. It's one of the most common places to advertise jobs. We get the most resumes. And that in itself is like an HRIS system. It's its own applicant tracking system. It keeps track of everyone who applies to a job. As just one example, a manager can type in and say, this applicant did not show up for an interview. They were a no-show, no call, didn't respond. And then when that applicant applies to other positions, other managers can see that and sometimes doesn't proceed with even trying to interview them. So that's just one example of how HRIS can be used during the recruiting process to really help us track the resumes we're receiving, the applicants we're getting, and tracking notes from our interviews of those applicants. Another way that we use it is our payroll system, though. Our payroll system also tracks resumes, and it can track internal applicants to our positions and also tracks the progression of our employees when they get promoted. And if they want to apply to a position, you can see their career history. And that helps managers a lot when they're making decisions too.
Which HRIS system do you use?
It's called Ceridian Dayforce.
Okay. All right. So how does the system screen resumes?
Any way we want. Either of those two systems, we could create questions, for example. Do you have a bachelor's degree? And if they say no, it's not progressed. And they often will say the employees what their most recent job title was. So it's really customizable of however we want it to be.
So do you use keywords?
When we do a resume search or when we're reviewing resumes?
Say in the HRIS system, when you're looking at resumes, do you ever use keywords for filtering resumes?
So we can typically, I have to be honest, in this day and age, most companies don't get a lot of resumes. 10 years ago, we would get 100 resumes per position and we would sort of screen them out more. Now we read every resume we get because we sometimes only get 5 or 10 resumes per position. But we can also go into these databases and search for resumes from anyone who's applied to any job before. And yes, we can look up any keyword we want from their resume. When I advise friends or family members about doing a resume, I encourage them to use a lot of different keywords because that's often how employers search for them.
And how do you advise them to choose those keywords?
And actually, I do that with both applicants and for job postings. So for example, some people may be an administrative assistant level 3 at their organization, but maybe that's in the human resource department. So they want to make sure to put in, I worked in the human resource department. I handled, all the words that they used. If they looked at resumes, if they scheduled interviews, you want to use all those words and make sure they're in the resume so they can be found when we're doing a search. Same thing when jobs are posted. A lot of databases will automatically put that in, again, administrative assistant level 3 or programmer level 4, something. And I say, you can change that for the job ad. Job advertisement's different than the internal job description. And for a job advertisement, people, when you're doing a job search, you're often doing a keyword search, and we want these jobs to come up. So we will put in a lot of different keywords, both into the title and into the body of the job ad.
Okay, so how does the HRIS system track applicants?
It keeps track of, I'm actually not sure of the back end part of it, but it keeps track of all their names, what positions they applied to, the date they applied, and any notes that we put in. And it's really good. It also helps if someone tries to change their resume and tweak it or remove information. We can see an older resume and say, hey, that's not where you worked 5 years ago.
And so you mentioned you don't use a lot of resumes. So do you use the same thing with, say, a job application? Do you have an application form that moves through the applicant tracking system?
Yes. This is actually something I advise clients a lot about too. A lot of times when you apply for a job, you'll have to fill out a whole application. And I advise clients, don't do that. I don't actually need the application until I'm about to interview you. So I make it so that if that quick Indeed apply, a lot of people see that, you just send a resume without filling out anything. That means they've delayed their application until perhaps when you interview, or even sometimes when they're about to make you the offer, that's when they have you fill out the application. And that's because people, you get more resumes that way.
And by clients, did you mean employers or did you mean applicants?
Yes, employers.
Because you do some freelance consulting too.
Yes, I do some freelance consulting on the side. So I'm always in recruiting is the hottest topic that employers need right now. They're all trying to find ways to get the best people the fastest way possible.
You know, it is really amazing how recruiting has just blown up. You know, everybody's looking for that really awesome skilled recruiter right now. And they're hard to find. I mean, there are some very niche skills that you need. I mean, HRIS being one of them, understanding how to use it. You know, when you're looking at how you're using it, what about metrics, staffing metrics? Do you have anything in particular that you set up or something that you use to make it more efficient or to become a better recruiter?
Yes. So we always want to track where the resumes are coming from. I do mention Indeed a lot, but we post on probably 15 or 20 different sites. And we want to know where we're getting the best resumes. We also do job fairs and things like that. So everything's recorded in the system so we can see who we got, where we got them, how long it took to be hired also. That's very important. There are some managers, I can see if someone applied a month ago, and the manager hasn't called them yet, that's a problem. So we can see in the system, we can see every note that every manager says, like, oh, hello, I like your resume. I'd like to talk to you. Was that within, we recommend it's within 48 hours because the job market is so hot right now. If you don't talk to an applicant right away, you could lose them. Managers are very busy and they're juggling a lot of things, but this is the most important thing they can do is to respond to job applicants in a timely manner. And that's what the HRIS helps us do.
What about the dashboard? So we're talking about metrics. Are there any particular metrics that you would put on your dashboard that you would want to track frequently?
Well, if it is recruiting, it would be the number of open positions, what areas they're in. You know, do I have 10, let's just say lifeguards? Do I have 10 lifeguard openings and 1 administrative assistant? We have to focus on why we have so many lifeguard openings. Why was it open? Did someone quit? If they quit, did they quit for another job that was for more money? We really track all of that information to see, really to evolve our HR strategy. And that's part of the reason why we look at compensation. If we have a lot of people leaving for other positions, and if we're lucky enough that they tell us during their exit interview, we'll put that into our HRIS, and we can use that data to help get the senior management team to approve raises for those people.
So it sounds like what you're talking about is you're pulling reports. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, so what type of reports do you create on the staffing process?
So again, it'll be number of positions, titles, how long it takes to fill a position. and that we look at the managers for, but also the reasons. So why did someone leave? Was it, or if someone was terminated, actually, if one department, people keep getting fired, we'll also want to know what happened. Are they not getting the right training? Does the manager need retraining? We also look at things like diversity. People coming in and applying for jobs, we look at their EEO statements to see, is it a diverse pool of candidates coming in? There's so much that HRIS can provide, and we look at it every day.
Can you explain how the HRIS system can improve the staffing process as a whole?
Yeah, so again, right now, because recruiting is such a hot topic, it's time to fill jobs. We're always looking at how long has it been open and why. Has it been open for a long time because the salary is just too low and no one's applying, or are people applying and the manager's just not responding in a timely manner? We like to look at how many interviews are there. We recommend, for example, that the manager does a phone screen first and then perhaps narrows it down, and perhaps a Zoom or Teams interview online before inviting them in to meet with a panel. And you can do all of that within a week.
Okay, so it sounds like you're looking for problems and potential causes of the problems. Is that what you tend to share with the managers? Because you mentioned that you share reports with the managers.
Yes, it's more, the more I look at it though, is where can I help? What are the roadblocks to filling positions, and how can I help remove those roadblocks so we can fill more of them? Every day I want to know how many positions do we have, and how many people we've hired. So that's really what it is. We as HR, I'm here to help support. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. It's more like, what can we do to help move this along?
Okay, and so if I were a student and I were interested in being a recruiter, or I was a manager who was relying on a recruiter to help me, what type of skills would I need related to the HRIS systems in order to get into that type of career field?
Really, it's just each system is unique, and it just takes time to learn how it works. They're all here to help us. The databases are all very similar between companies. It's just seeing how it works and learning the tips and tricks. We also like to document the tips and tricks. We have a lot of procedural manuals so that you can say, hey, you can send a rejection letter over, if you click this button, you can do this, you can do that, you can track your own statistics. So really just learning how it works and playing with the system. When I started early on, I was again curious and looked for ways to make it even better. And that's how I learned more about HRIS. Like, how come whatever it was, the start date on the offer letter is always a day off and we have to go in and tweak it? Why can't the start date just automatically show up? And we learned there was a problem with the system, and you just tweak this thing, you see how it works. And I found it interesting that little tweaks that we did within the system made our jobs easier. So that's why I was always interested in it.
I remember when I first started using an HRIS system, I was so afraid I was going to mess payroll up. I was worried because our HR system was connected to the payroll package. Those two packages were connected. I was using Abra. And when I first started using it, I was so afraid of touching things and changing things. And I actually went out to a class to learn how to do it, but they made me jump in before I went to the class. And what I found out later was that there's a dummy section where they can build a dummy corporation for you to practice on, which is very interesting. It would have been quite helpful to my stress levels. And
yeah,
of course,
so
I was going to say, it can always be fixed. It's good to try. Like I said, just jump in and start trying to figure things out. It's keep track of everything, little tips and tricks and shortcuts. And yeah, absolutely.
Yes, so we have that. We have a test page. We make it fun. So one thing I do say is, if you make a mistake, it's okay. I'd rather you test the system and make a mistake than never try and make it better. And on our test page, we make it fun by making fun names. We have Mickey Mouse and Abraham Lincoln. That way, if they ever show up in a report, we'll know that it's a test subject, but it's in our test screen. And we try all these different things. We're like, let's offer Mickey Mouse a vice president position for $1 million a year. Why? Just because it's fun. It makes it interesting. And we're actually testing out offer letters now, learning how to create offer letters for different departments within our HRIS. And they're nervous about it, but I'm excited. We're going to make people's jobs easier once we get this to work. So I make sure we take the time to tweak it and test it and make sure it's all right before we release it to anybody.
Okay, well, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing all of your experiences with the students today.
Thank you. It was fun.